So let's go over your homework. So let me see. It was parameters in return, get first digit, get last digit, and grades, and arrays index of and is monotonic.
Yeah.
So
So I got
questions.
the first two, but then I had a question on the grades one because
Hmm.
I didn't finish it, but I was confused for like how to continue.
Okay, awesome. And then what about for arrays?
For arrays, there was I think the second one we had a little bit of trouble on it.
Okay, awesome. So is this something both you guys had questions on?
Yeah, this one both of us.
Okay, so let's see. Write a program in a class called grades that helps a student estimate their grades. Your program uses a student's grades on homework, a midterm, and a final. Weighted average points earned in each category are divided by the total possible points for that category. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this program reads your scores on homework and exams and reports your course grade or what score you need on the final exam. So exam weights 20 and 30. Homework. Okay, can you scroll down so I
Yeah.
can? Oh boy. Okay.
Hmm.
Course grade 86.8. The program asked the user for weights of the two exams. Okay. Now, how many homework assignments were given? Okay, for each assignment, the user enters. Okay, okay. Use a cumulative sum to compute homework scores. Part of the homework scores come from sections the student attended. Each is worth 3 points up to a maximum of 20. Sure. The user next enters his. Okay, sure. So you basically enter your scores one at a time. I won't read like every single specific instruction. We can go through those together. But okay, so questions. How, like, did we understand the question? How did we feel?
Um, yeah, so basically like I understood the question. Um, like it's basically asking like the person like how many assignments they had, um,
Mm-hmm.
and to like essentially get their score. And then it asks um like how many sections or hold on. Yeah. And then basically it's you're basically like trying to find the weighted like average of the
Yeah.
scores. And then like that's pretty much it. But then I don't know, it was like super well, I did this. This is what I had so far for my code.
Mm-hmm.
Um and and I guess like I know how to continue on from here.
Okay, so let me ask you something. So, how do you calculate the homework grade? Just the homework portion of the grade.
Um,
So, can you tell me like each of the different portions that go into calculating your overall grade?
yeah. Well, in order to calculate the homework grade, um, you subtract the sum of the exam weights from 100,
Yeah, okay.
and then like, wait, can I reread the question again? I'm sorry, because I feel like
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like yeah. So I know that since you want to know like the amount of assignments um
Mm-hmm.
of the student, like that would be the first thing like you'd want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found this on like line because I didn't remember it, but
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
um this is like I'm pretty sure I have it in my notes, but I'm pretty sure like this code is like the thing that basically like it stores when a person answers this question, it would store um that like number into
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did like int score basically, so this is like the integer that like holds the amount of points that the person like gathered doing all the all it's just like his or her assignments. And then int max is basically for like the maximum points that like the all the assignments added together could give you. And then the reason why I did this is that basically since there's like different number of assignments, it would run through one like the for loop would run for each assignment. And we know that it starts at like one, so basically zero. And then um the person would have to or like the student would have to um
Mm-hmm.
like tell you their score for like their assignments. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is like where the number would be like held for the school. Oh wait, shoot, I didn't put the in.
So
I
if you put int there, you're gonna be resetting the variable,
oh yeah,
like
because I
making a
already
new
made it.
score. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then that this is like the maximum amount of points that you can earn, and then that's where you would also store it. So this just runs through for each assignment. And
Mm-hmm.
then for this one, it's like the homework grade. Um so it's like the score. Wait, I think I may have done this part wrong.
Okay, so yeah, I can definitely tell that you understand what's going on, and I really like what you guys have so far. I think you're like on the right track. You just haven't, it's just obviously like not completed, but what you
Yeah.
have is pretty correct. So just to like start you guys off, I think the problem is like a little long. So what I'll do is like let's run through it together now as a review, and then I'll just like give it back to you guys to do it for like this coming week and just like
Okay.
finish it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
But hopefully like you guys will understand like what you're missing after this.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm just gonna answer real quick. So there's a couple things that you just have to keep that you're gonna have to keep track of in this problem.
Okay.
So the very first thing you're gonna want to keep track of are your exam weights. So okay, I think I'm gonna switch to typing, but yeah. So the first thing you want to keep track of are your exam weights, and the reason why is because if you look in the code, so this the code that they give you, or not the code, but like this sample program output is like gold, right? Like this is exactly what you want to follow. And
Yeah.
the first thing that I print out and ask for is exam weights right here, right? So you really like you have to keep track of that. And so you know that like the user is going to have a midterm score and a final score, which is why so they're always going to input you two numbers. So you should have two variables to keep track of those, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So we know that we have that. The second thing we have to keep track of is going to be our number of assignments and our assignment scores, right? So number of assignments and assignment scores. And so I think this is where you guys started. So you kind of like skip the first part with the exam weights because if you look at your code, you went straight into like asking how many assignments they have. So just make sure you go ahead and go back and like add that like the first one where you ask for the exam weights and then you like take in two numbers. So it's again the same thing you did where you say input.next int, but you would do that twice because you're
Yeah.
taking in two numbers, right? But yeah. So after you ask for exam weights and you store those, you ask for number of assignments and then you ask for the assignment scores, which is exactly what you guys did. Um, the one thing I'll note here is follow their output format exactly. So what that means is that right now in your for loop, what you're saying is enter score and then enter max. But if you look at what they did, what they print out is just one line. It's like assignment one, score and max, question mark. And then you take in two numbers, right? So they don't ask for enter score and then enter max individually. They just print out one sentence saying assignment like number, score and max question mark, and then they take in two numbers at once. So do you get what I'm saying? Like you have to fix your print statements in your for loop.
Yeah. Okay, yeah,
Like
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Um, So just make sure you follow their output format exactly. And uh yeah, other than that, the for loop looks really good. The assignments, you're running it assignment number of times, which is really good. The other thing I want to say is I'll put another note here is your like keep track of a total numerator and denominator. So the way you like actually like calculate the homework grade is you're gonna have after you take assignment number one, score and max, assignment number two, score and max, assignment number three, score and max, you basically take all the scores and all the maximums and you add them up. So if you get like, I don't know, 15 out of 20 on assignment one, 20 out of 20 on assignment two, and like 10 out of 20 on assignment three, how do you calculate your score, your overall homework score? Well, you add up like your scores that you got and you divide it by the total, which is like 60 points, right? So if you only got, I don't know, 40 points out of 60 total, then that means you got like 67%, right? Uh, I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have ever, yeah. Hopefully this should be like a little more intuitive. And so when you in your for loop, when you say score equals input.nextInt and you're taking in the next score they give you, instead of saying equals, you should say plus equals because you need to if you just say score equals and then you just update the score every time to like the next score that they give you, you're like completely losing all the previous scores and you need all the scores combined in order to calculate your combined homework grade, right? So what you
Yeah.
should do is add all the scores up that for every assignment that the user has, right? And then add up all the max points per assignment, and that way you can do like a total numerator divided by total denominator. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And the last note I'll make for the homework assignments is that don't forget to calculate section points to add in section points is what I'll say. So don't forget that like the homework grade is calculated based off two parts, right? You have your homework assignment scores, and then underneath that you have your sections. So if you read the little blurb in the second paragraph below the code, below the output, it explains to you the how the sections work, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
or sorry, it's the first paragraph under the output. But basically what they say is like you can have you after you ask for the assignments and the scores, you have to ask for the number of sections the user attended, and then you take in some int variable that they're going to give you, which tells you how many sections, and each section they attended is 3 points up to a maximum of 20 points. So if they say five sections attended, that's 15 points out of 20. And if they say 6, that would be 18 out of 20. If they say 7, that would just be 20 out of 20. So the section thing is like just times 3 for whatever section. They have like they explain it right there, but it's like a max up to 20. So just make sure that you add that into that like you add that into your numerator, how many sections they attended times 3, and then you add the 20 to the denominator. And then you calculate the overall homework percentage, right? So you can see like right here. So they ask for number of sections, and then because it's five times 3 points per section is 15, and they say section points like the max for that is 20, so it's 15 out of 20, and so you can see if you add up all the assignment numerators, which is 14, 17, 19, and 15 for the sections, right? That's what is that? 19 plus 17 is 36.
26, yeah.
Yeah, 36 plus 14 is 50, plus 15 is 65. So their total numerator is 65. That's how many points they earned out of the total possible number of points, which is all the denominators added up, which is 15 plus 20 plus 25 plus 20, which is 80.
Wait,
Apparently.
wait,
Huh?
wait, why is this section attended 5 over again?
Why is it what?
5, this section attended.
Sections. Because the homework grade is composed of homework assignments and sections attended. So in addition to asking the user for like every homework assignment and the grade they got, you also need to ask them how many sections they attended because they can also receive up to 20 points for going to sections. And
Oh,
each section is worth 3 points, right? Up to 20. So if you go to 6 sections, you can earn 18 points out of 20. If you go to 7 sections, well, it's 21, but it's up to 20 max. So you get 20 out of 20 points.
okay, got
So
it.
yeah, so here, like the user attended 5 sections, so they put in 5. So then 5 times 3 points per section is 15 points when they could have earned 20 max. So that's why it's 15 over 20 that you
Okay,
add. Yeah, yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, yeah. So then you add all the numerators, you add all the denominators, and then you get your total points, like fraction, which is this guy. And then once you get your total numerator over your total denominator, then that's going to be some sort of percentage or decimal or fraction, whatever. And then you can multiply that by your homework weight, right? Which you calculate when you do the 100 minus whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the homework section I think is the hardest. That's part two. So part one, exam weights. Part two, assignments includes. Sorry, part two is homework, which includes assignments and sections. Okay,
Okay.
and then yeah, and then part three is let me see. Oh, part three is just printing out each exam weight. So part three is gonna be midterm score, right? Midterm weighted score. So for the midterm weighted score, so every student is going to have taken their midterm, right? Well, that's what the problem says if you read it. Like they tell you that every student will have some sort of midterm score because they took the midterm already.
Mm-hmm.
So based on whatever like weight they give you for the midterm, like in the beginning of the program, which you ask for, you're gonna be like, okay, the midterm weighs 20 points. So you ask for the score, and then each test has a curve, which they make it really easy here. It's just like you just add the curve on. So if it's like if I scored a 78 on the midterm and you ask for the curve and there's a curve of 3 points, then actually I got an 81. So you just add the curve on. Sometimes like, you know, I don't know if you guys have your test. Do you guys ever get your test curve?
Yeah, we do sometimes.
Right. And so you know what the concept of a curve is, right? It's just like the tests are hard, so like they don't
Yeah.
want the students to fail, so they'll like give you a little grade boost depending on how bad you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. So there's all types of complicated curves. There's like a square root curve where it's like they'll add like some sort of like the worse you did, the more points you get, something like that. But this curve is super simple. They just like add like a linear amount of points to your numerator, right? So again, as an example, I scored 78 on the test. Curve is 3. I got an 81. So what you'll do is you'll take that percentage, so 81% or 81 over 100, whatever, and then you'll multiply it by the weight of the test. So again, here is 20 points. And so that means that the points of that I earned from the midterm are 16.2 out
Mm,
of, I assume, yeah, out of 20.
mhm.
Yeah, because the weight is 20. Okay. And so that's the midterm. And then the last thing is going to be the final. And so I'm just going to draw a little arrow here because there's actually two scenarios for the final. They could have taken the final. Um, so this is option one. They could have taken the final, or option two, they might not have taken the final. So this is the last tricky part of the code. Excuse me. So you can see that like underneath the midterm section, they ask you have to print out, have you taken the final? A one equals yes, two equals no. So the user here, you have to give them two options. You have to, and so obviously every time the user types in an input, you have to store it. So you have to, store an int value like what you did here, input.nextInt, right? You need to check if they gave you a one or a two, because a
Yeah.
one means they have taken their final, and a two means they have not taken their final. So if
Mhm.
they have taken their final, then you do the exact same thing you did with the midterm, where you tell them, you print out what the exam weight is, you print out their score, or you ask them for their score, you ask them for the curve, and then you basically tell them, print out the total number, the total points they got on the test, and then you print out their overall course grade. So they've taken the final, they're done with the course, right?
Mhm.
Um, on the other hand, what they don't show you in this output is what happens if the user prints out two for no, I have not taken my final. But they tell you what to do if you like read the paragraphs, and I think you can also just run your code and like you can look at like the whatever test cases they give you, and like I'm sure at least one of the test cases will have the user put in like a two, so you can see like what they expect you to do when the user gives you a two, right? Like you
Mhm.
should print out this, this, and this. So from what I remember, the instructions ask you to like ask the user for like what is your target like score, what is your goal score in the course, and then you have to calculate like what score they need on their final exam in order to get that grade.
Mhm.
um yeah, do you guys know how to do that like mathematically? It would just be like you
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, okay. So that being said, overall, there's four parts to this question, right? Number one, you have to ask them for their exam weights. That's the easiest one.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to ask them for their assignment, their homework score, which includes assignment scores and section scores. And
Mhm.
then number three, you need to add in their midterm score. Number four, their final, which either they could have taken or not taken. And so you need to make sure you ask them, have you taken your final yet? And depending on whether they give you a one or a two, that's gonna this is like really like this boils down to an if else statement, right? Like you get input.nextInt. If you know number equals one, then you run this. If number equals two, you run the other thing. You run
Yeah.
the other thing. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of how this code works. Uh, any questions?
No questions. I think like I know how to. It was just like difficult, I feel like in the beginning for me because there's so much like information and like
Yeah. I know. I totally get what you mean. It's a very beefy problem. Um,
yeah, it is.
yeah. But I think the good thing about problems like these are like they're not so much conceptually difficult, like has mirror twice. This one's just more so
Yeah.
like it helps drill in like the skills, right? Like can I take in, user inputs? Can I run ifs and fors and whatever? So these
Yeah.
ones are like, yeah, not too bad.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And then do you want to go over the question you had on the Okay, there is a question.
Okay, I'm gonna clear the screen if you guys are good.
Okay, yeah. I
Okay,
took a photo.
okay.
Um, Oh wait, actually, maybe
I got it.
I swear that no, it was the last one. It was this one, right? Okay, it was this question.
Mhm.
Um, that we had trouble on.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, so I did like the beginning part, and then I kind of got like a little bit lost on like what to do after.
Okay. Let me see. An empty one, an empty one element or two element array is always considered monotonic, of course. Okay. So yeah. Do we understand the question? Like, what were we thinking?
Yeah, so I understand the question. Basically, um, I basically just like I started with this part, which I included because like it to like make sure that this part is taken account for.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then afterwards, I um like set the Boolean increasing and decreasing to show like that like within this part there's no spot where the array goes down or
hmm
the or where the array goes up.
hmm
Um and then afterwards I was like trying to code like just like all of this part that shows like that checks whether it's like ascending or descending order and then like the outcome of like whether it's like true or false. But I was like a little bit lost on like what to do to code it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you guys are on a really good track. So what I would say, first of all, is it's just two things, right? So the first is pretty minor. If you
Yeah.
have if you have a variable to check for whether your array is increasing, do you need a second variable to check if your array is decreasing?
No.
Well, let's put it this way. So what I would say is like why let me take one step back. So like why do they say return true automatically if your array has like two things or less? So let's say it has two things, like only two numbers. Why do you return
Yeah.
true?
Because like there's no spot where the array goes down or where it goes up.
Right, you only have two like data points, right? So like
Yeah.
yeah. So what if you have three numbers?
Then it wouldn't make that determination, like of whether it's or like it would have to like go through like
Right, right. But what I'm
yeah.
asking is like what I'm asking is how would you figure out if you have an array of three numbers, how would you figure out whether it's like increasing or decreasing completely or if it like mixes?
Um, well, isn't that like where we would have to code that part? Or
Yeah, yeah,
since
but I'm not, yeah, you would, but I'm not asking code wise. I'm asking like,
yeah.
if you were solving it by hand
Okay,
or
like
just
you
like
would
mentally. Yeah.
um and you're saying like how would you determine whether or not it's like increasing or decrease or ascending or descending?
Yeah, like let's say I gave you like three numbers and then I was like, is this completely ascending, completely descending, or does it like break, you know, one of the
Let's
two? Like,
yeah, so like you would have to go through like each I guess like index and then or just like each yeah, each number and then see whether or not like the previous one of the second one is greater than the sec wait, whether like the second number within it is less than or equal or less than or greater than the first one, and then whether the third one or the third number is greater than or smaller than the previous one. And then
Right.
I think
And then
also
what?
same thing with the like the third compared to the first as well.
Right. Well, you don't have to do that one. Um, it's just like second versus first and third versus second.
Third versus second. Yeah.
Right. So if like let's say second versus first is increasing and third versus second is also increasing, then you know you're good. Or
Yeah.
if second versus first is decreasing and then third to second is also decreasing, then you know you're good, right?
Yeah.
But if second versus first is like increasing and then let's say like third to second is decreasing or like the other way, the other like mix, then you know that like you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So what about four elements then?
Um what I it's the first like comparing the second to first and then third to second and then fourth to third.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so what in all of these cases, what determines the pattern that you're checking for? Because let's say you have this is gonna sound very like dumb, but like if you have an array that like is descending, so like -1, -2, -3, -4, you're not checking
Yeah.
to see if those numbers are increasing. You're checking to
Yeah.
see if they're all decreasing, right?
Yeah.
So how, or versus if you have an array like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that gets bigger, you're checking to see if they're all ascending, not descending. So how
Yeah.
do you know which pattern you're checking for?
Like whether or not it's a ascending or descending pattern.
Right, exactly. Because
Um,
it wouldn't make sense
yeah.
to check for, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, like so would I need to make like a like two different if statements
For what?
after this for it's to see like to determine whether or not it's increasing or decreasing.
But how would you do that? Like, you mean inside
Um,
the for loop?
yeah.
So the problem with just making an if statement inside the for loop is like you can say if the thing I'm looking at is bigger than the last thing I'm looking at, then keep going, or like, but like that wouldn't work if it was like a descending loop, or like, you know what I mean? Like like that doesn't. I wouldn't say that solves the problem.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so I'll kind of like push us along a little bit here. It's like it's kind of what you guys said about like when you have three numbers or when you have four numbers. They're really like simple cases. Like
Yeah.
the first step is always you compare the second element to the first element, right? Depending
Mhm.
on whether that goes up or whether that goes down, you're checking that same pattern for all the rest of the numbers, right? If you go
Yeah.
up, then you want to keep checking, am I ascending the whole time? Or if I go down, am I descending the whole time? And so really what's going to determine whether you want to check for an ascending or descending pattern is based on your first two numbers, right? It's like,
Mhm.
well, I know that I already have like an ascending pattern with my first two numbers. So let's just check ascending the rest of the way. And as if I, have a number that like breaks the ascending pattern, then I know I just return false and I'm done, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I reach the end of the array and every number is bigger than the last number, then I know I return true. And it's the same thing with descending, right? If my first two numbers create a descending pattern, then I just check descending for the rest of the array. So I'm like, is my next number less than my last number? And as soon as that pattern breaks, I return false. But if I can get through the entire array, then I return true.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Wait, but
Okay.
wouldn't that entail making like the if statements in the bottom of the for loop to like make the conditions and then say, oh, like decreasing equals false, and then like the other if statement and then saying increasing or
Yeah, yeah,
like
you would. You would. Yeah, yeah. You have to have an if statement in your for loop. But
okay,
I don't remember what exactly we said last time, but
okay.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, you definitely need an if statement in your for loop to check like is there a pattern
Got it.
yeah. So I remember. Yeah. What you need to okay, so this is like the other thing I want to say like you don't
Yeah.
need in two booleans to check increasing and decreasing
Oh,
because
okay.
if you're not if your increasing boolean is true, that means you're checking increasing and if your increasing boolean value is false, then you know you're checking decreasing. So you don't need like an increasing check and a decreasing check. Because
So I
if
only
increasing is false, that means you're checking decreasing. Like, yeah.
okay. So would I only need like one then?
Yeah, yeah. Like you're
Okay.
only checking you only need to keep track of like, am I checking an increasing like trend?
Got it. Okay, that
Yeah, yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. That'll just make your life easier. So you don't have to keep track of two things at once, right?
Okay, yeah. And
So
then
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
wait, like the print it's like messed up. I think I need one more.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, so
Hmm.
and then this would mean that decreasing is false, right? Is it like something like this?
So what I would say is initially before your for loop, you need to establish whether your Boolean increasing is going to be true or false, right? Because once you enter your for loop, you want to know what pattern you're going to be checking for. You don't want to make that. You don't want to like wait until you get into your for loop to check for that, right?
Yeah. So
So above your for loop, like you
yeah.
should say like if your second element is bigger than your first element, then increasing is true. Otherwise, increasing is false.
So like have this basically here.
Yeah,
Or
pretty much. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Or except now it wouldn't be I. So how do you say if the second element in your array is bigger than the first element in your array?
If you're second, wait,
How do you get the second element in your array? Yeah?
like this and then oops.
Right, but it's not two.
I wait,
No. Two is the third element in your array.
so one.
Yeah, because remember
Oh
indexes
yeah,
start
yeah,
from
yeah.
zero.
Got
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. Also, your array is called array, not a. But
okay,
right
okay.
idea. Yeah, you good. So
Would
you're
it
asking, yeah.
to 0?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you don't have an index I because you're not in a for loop or anything, so there's no
Yeah.
I. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then would it just be the same thing, like decreasing?
No, there's no decreasing. You deleted that, right? We don't need it.
And wait, that's it then?
So if your second element is greater than your first one,
Yeah.
then should you set increasing to true or false?
If my second element is greater than the first, then increasing is true. So
Right.
return true.
No. Like you don't return anything here. This is only to like
Oh,
you're just checking the first two numbers inside your array to see, okay, like should I like if my second number is bigger than my first number, then I know that I'm looking for an ascending trend for the rest of the array, right? Like,
yeah.
cause does that make sense? Cause like
That
there,
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay.
So I would honestly for this if statement I would check if the second element is less than the first element, and then if it is, then we can set increasing equal to false. That's just because you already, when you make your increasing Boolean, you already set it equal to true. So we don't need to check for, like, we don't need to check a condition where you would set it equal to true because it's true anyways.
Yeah.
So I would see like, okay, are we checking, is the second number less than the first number? Then we need to change increasing to false.
Okay. Um,
So if array at 1 is less than array at 0, that
yeah.
means that we should set increasing equal to false.
Wait, is that even right? I feel like I'm not doing.
Yeah. So let me maybe if I draw, it'll make more sense. So like right now we have, oops. Right now we have some sort of list of numbers, and we don't know how many numbers we're gonna get. So let's just say we have three numbers, right? So we have boom, boom, and I just drew them on like an XY plane, right?
Yeah.
So let's say these are our three numbers. So this is our first number, this is our second number, and this is our third number, right? So one, two, three. And then obviously the y-axis is how big the number is, right? So how do we know whether this array like follows an increasing or decreasing pattern or whether it does not? Well, we know that it doesn't because based on the first two numbers, which go ascending, which are increasing, we should be checking for an increasing pattern for the rest of the array. But this guy, the third guy goes down. So we know that we've broken our pattern, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, let's say that we have our first two numbers that go like this, right? Now we know that our pattern is, oh, we're going down. So we can have an infinite number of numbers after inside the array, but if they all go down and fit that same decreasing pattern,
Mhm.
right, that we're checking for, then we know that we're going to be okay, right? On the other hand, let's say some number goes like, okay, maybe the third number goes down, but the fourth number goes up. Well, now that we established from the first two numbers that we're checking for a down pattern, right? The as soon as we break that down trend, right? So the fourth number goes up, we know that we've broken the pattern. So initially, like all we're doing right now with the if statement that you made is like we need based on the first two numbers, we need to see are we going to be checking to go down the whole way or up the whole way?
Oh, okay, yeah, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And so now that we've made this if statement, so
Yeah,
that's the whole point of the increasing Boolean, right? It's telling you, okay, if increasing is true, that means I'm checking up the whole way. And then here, this if statement is checking, okay, actually, is the second number less than the first number? Then we gotta check down the whole way. So we set increasing equal to false because we're not checking
okay,
an increasing, we're checking decreasing.
got it. That makes sense.
Okay, does it really? Because,
Yeah, it
okay,
does.
okay. So now that we've established that what pattern we're looking for, now we can go into our for loop and check, okay, every single number, is this one bigger than the last one or is this less than the last one? Like, does this follow our pattern, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so inside our for loop, what we should do is each time we should have, let's just make two integer variables to keep track of whichever index we're at and whichever index we were at before. So what would be the value of the index we're at right now?
Um, 0.
No, like inside, so when we're inside the for loop, right?
Yeah.
We have our index I, which is like looping through the array.
Yeah.
And if I ask you like, okay, what is like my current index? What would you say? Like inside the for loop at any given point.
I.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Index I is where you're at, right?
Yeah.
And so what is the value of the number at index I? Like what's the code? Like what would you type for that?
Um, oh, array and then
Hmm.
bracket I.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then
Yeah.
what about the number, the previous number, like right before?
Um, I'm array and then bracket I minus 1.
Exactly, right? So before I even make any if statements, what I would do is just make two int variables to like keep track of those, right? So I would say I would call array at I like I don't know, like current or like now, and then maybe array at I minus one, I would call it like previous or whatever. Like you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will just help us with like the not get confused by the naming. Okay, awesome.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so now we have um, every time we loop, we're gonna have a current variable for our number now and a previous variable for our previous number, right?
Yeah.
Already it's looking like so good, right? So
Yeah.
now all we need to do is check, okay, if we're checking for an increasing pattern, so if increasing is true, then we just need to check, is our number actually bigger than our previous number, right? And what I
Yeah.
would actually do is check, is our number less than our previous number? Because we want to check if we're breaking the pattern, right? Because if we ever break the pattern, we can instantly just return false and just end the program, right? So it's faster to check, do we break the pattern at any point? So if we do, then we can just return false. And then if we get through the whole for loop and we don't break any pattern the entire way through the array, then after the for loop, we know that we've successfully followed the pattern every single step of the way, and then we can just return true because we made it to the end, right?
Yeah.
So what I would do is when I check if we're following an increasing pattern, check if we have like a decreasing like pair. So like is current number less than previous number? And then when you're checking the other case, so if we're checking if increasing is false, then I would check, do we have an increasing pair? So is current greater than previous? Does it make sense?
Uh, it's like a little confusing.
Okay, so yeah, I think picture will help.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is like if you have like this list of numbers, right? So let's say our first two numbers were like this. So is increasing true or false?
True.
True, right? And so now we have to check the rest of our numbers. So let's say the rest of our numbers are like this,
Yeah.
right? And so this is the point where we use the for loop to go through the rest of the array, right? And so what I would do is, since we know increasing is true, at each point when we're comparing two numbers, so this is our now and this is our previous, for example, right? I would check, is our now and previous, do they break the pattern? So is now less than previous, right? Because as soon as you sense a break in the pattern, you can return false. So in this case, does this break the pattern? No. Does this break the pattern? No. Oh, does this break the pattern? Yes. And so we can instantly return false. So what I would do is check, do you ever break the pattern? So what you could do also is if increasing is true, you could check, okay, do we follow the pattern every time? But then you would have to check like, do we follow the pattern? Okay, keep going. Do we follow the pattern? Okay, keep going. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. But every step, you just want to check like, do we follow the pattern or do we break the pattern? And as soon as you don't follow the pattern, you just want to return false.
Okay. Yeah.
So So I don't know, like I guess like to sum what I was just saying, like every step you just need to check, okay, do I follow the pattern? Or you can also ask, do I break the pattern? But you just need to check to make sure that you're following the pattern.
Got it.
Like,
Yeah.
okay. So
Do we
okay,
do
so how would you
that
code
by
that?
making if statement?
Yeah, yeah, make an if statement and then
Okay.
what would you ask?
And then, okay, wait, let me. So, like, if array at index I
Right,
is,
but you have a name for that, right?
oh, wait,
We
yeah.
we
So
yeah, yeah. So it makes it easier. Yeah.
if current index is greater than previous, um,
So we don't have a decreasing variable.
oh, wait, so increasing, wait,
So um just to clarify, like this increasing Boolean, once we made it in the beginning, you don't want to touch it. So you do not want to change this guy in your for loop, right? That was the whole point. It's like the increasing variable
yeah,
keeps track of the trend that we're trying to follow for the rest of the thing. So you don't want to change this in the for loop. What you want to do is check in the for loop if increasing is true. So if we're looking for an increasing pattern, right? And then inside of that, you would check if current is greater than previous, then okay, then we're good, right? Or alternatively, if increasing is false, right? That means we're looking for a downward pattern. Then if current is greater than previous, okay, then we have a problem, right? But inside your for loop, you want to check first, is increasing true or false? Because, depending on whether we're looking for an up pattern or a down pattern, right? I like that's gonna change like whether what we're looking at is good or bad,
yeah,
right? So this if statement that you're typing right now, instead of comparing our two numbers, the first thing I would ask is are we looking for an upward pattern or a downward pattern, right?
yeah. And
Okay.
then,
hmm
wait, how would we do that? Well, wouldn't that,
hmm
in order to do that, like, wouldn't we have to do this? Cause like,
No, because yeah, because what?
cause like, if current is greater than previous, like, wouldn't it mean that it's ascending?
Yeah. But
So,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
um,
Ah, you don't know, right? Why don't you know?
because like we don't know if the rest of it is ascending or descending. Or
Right,
wait,
you don't know what pattern you're looking for,
yeah,
right? It's a good thing if the pattern you're looking for is up. It's a bad thing if the pattern you're looking for is down, right?
yeah,
So did we establish like something that keeps track of what pattern we're looking for? Yeah, we did, right? That's the
yeah,
increasing Boolean. So
yeah.
you want to check before you even look at the two numbers you have right now in your loop, you want to check, oh, am I looking for an up pattern or a down pattern? And then if I'm looking for an up pattern, okay, then like these two numbers increasing is good. Otherwise, these two numbers increasing is bad, right? So the first thing I would do is check whether our increasing Boolean is true or false. Because depending on that, we'll know like, okay, this breaks our pattern or this keeps our pattern.
So can't we say like if increasing and then like
And then you would check if, these two numbers follow the
yeah,
increasing pattern. Well, you need parentheses.
oh yeah.
No, no, like around increasing
Oh wait, okay.
because it's an if
Yeah,
statement.
I
Yeah.
forgot, yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Okay, so what does this mean? Now, this if increasing, what does this mean?
it means that it's ascending.
Right, we're checking for
So
an ascending pattern.
yeah, so the current must be greater than the
hmm
previous.
hmm Well, what do you mean it must be? What if it's not? You can't tell them like
Oh
it must
yeah.
be, right? But what can you do instead? Like, what if it's not greater than previous? Uh-oh. Hello? Hello, hello. Okay, awesome. So, yeah, I mean, current must not be greater than previous, right? You can check if current is greater than previous. And then what do you do if it is? What do you do if it isn't, right?
Yeah. Um, so like then do I just do like um
Mhm.
like I was thinking like if current is greater
Mhm.
like if current is but like I don't know how that would work because like wouldn't that be like another if statement? But like if
Yeah.
current is greater than previous, like
What? Then what?
then it'd be like fine. So
Yeah, right? It would be fine. And then
yeah,
what if
like it
it's
can proceed. And then if current is less than previous, it like has to stop. Like
right?
or yeah.
So if current is less than previous, we can just return false then
Yeah,
and there.
return false. Yeah.
And what if current is greater than previous? Have you guys learned continue?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because I don't
Have you
remember.
learned have you learned break? Or do you remember it?
Wait, we learned it, but I kind of forgot.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just like how you can say return to like just completely end a method. It's a very powerful word, right?
Okay.
The two other keywords in Java are continue and break. So break will just like end the for loop, just then and there. It won't end the method, like the overall method, but it'll just break out of the for loop. So even if you're like, even if the for loop was supposed to run like 10 times because the array has like 10 numbers
Yeah.
and you're on like turn loop three, like if you say break, if like, if you trigger the break statement, like on loop number three, it'll just break out, right? And you won't even check the other 7 times. Um,
Yeah.
if you say continue,
Hmm.
what that'll do is automatically like just continue on to the next loop. So like it'll just continue on to loop number four. But
Yeah.
what that means is it'll ignore the rest of the code that it was supposed to run underneath. So if you have a bunch of code underneath, but you say continue first, then it's just going to ignore all that and just jump straight to loop number four. Does that make sense? So here, what you would say, here would you say if current is greater than previous, would you say break or continue?
Continue.
Right, 'cause that means you're good, so you can just move on. You don't even need to worry about running any other code. You can just move on to the next, like 2 numbers, right?
Yeah.
So you could do that. What you could do is say if current is greater than previous, continue,
Hmm.
else return false.
Hmm.
Or you could just directly check if current is less than previous, then return false. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Like you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. You kind of cut out that continue redundancy by just checking for the bad case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't forget
Ordering?
your,
Am I formatting this right?
yeah, yeah, it looks good. Just don't forget your parentheses for your if statement.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Return.
No, not return break. Return your this is when you're returning like an answer like true or false, like for the method.
Return false.
Right. Because if you break your pattern, you return false, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
So that was if we're increasing.
Yeah.
If we're not increasing, we must be checking for a decreasing pattern, right?
Yeah.
So would we use an if else, else, maybe nothing? What would we do if we're looking at the case where we're not checking for an increasing pattern?
If and then decreasing.
Well, I mean, if increasing is false, is what you're saying, because we don't have a decreasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
You could do that, or you could just do an else, because if your Boolean increasing is true, it'll trigger the if, and
yeah.
if it's not true, if it's false, it'll trigger the else, right? There's only two possible options. So you don't need to check if increasing is false. You can just say else, because that
Okay.
means increasing is false. Yeah. It does the same thing, but like it's like it just logically like you're more advanced if you do it this way because it just makes sense, like this is
Okay. Yeah.
what the else is for. Yeah.
And then with this just
Mhm.
um
So you need your
uh,
brackets, right?
yeah.
hmm Now what are you checking for in this else?
Um, if current is or if it's are we checking if it's decreasing?
hmm
So if current is um
So now that we know we're looking for a decreasing trend, what should we ask about our current and previous values?
so like shouldn't it just be if current is greater than or if current is
If current is what?
if current is
You remember, you can check for whatever you want. Like it'll work either way. You can check to follow the trend or you can check to break the trend. Like both ways will work. It's just like what we did for increasing.
If current is greater than previous, return true.
Now return true. So if we're in the else, this means we're checking if to follow a decreasing pattern, right? If we're checking to follow a decreasing pattern, then we want our current to be less than previous, right? That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
So yeah, so if we check if current is greater than previous, that means we are breaking the pattern because we're going up, right?
yeah,
And so if we check if we're breaking the pattern, then what do we return? If we,
false.
right, it's the exact
Yeah.
same thing as what you did, right? You're
Yeah.
checking to break the pattern, and you can automatically just return false, which I think this is the more efficient way instead of checking to follow the pattern and saying continue, because then you have to, it's just like extra code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would I make another if and
hmm
say current is
So you see, like, this is the exact same thing you did as in the increasing situation. It's just flipped because now you're checking decreasing.
yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Okay.
Okay. So now that we have established these two like things where you check, are we breaking the pattern ever? Right? If you can like, well, if we return false, like if we also have to have a place in our code where we return true, right? Like, of
Mm-hmm.
course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we make it through the entire for loop, that means we make it through the entire array, and we
Mm-hmm.
never trigger the return false. That means we follow our pattern the whole way through. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what should you do at the very, very end?
Return um true.
Yeah, can you tell me why we should return true?
Because like we went through the whole like for loop and it didn't trigger. I mean, wait, isn't it just what you like said basically? Like we went through anything, like everything without like triggering um like it not following like ascending or like descending or
hmm
like and like stuff like that. And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so it
exactly
went
right.
yeah, and so it results in just like return true.
Right. So we don't need to check for anything like if this or this, then
Yeah.
we should return true, right? Because we know if we
Yeah.
made it that far, then we can just return true.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's try running it. I have
Yes.
high hopes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um,
Great.
I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I thought we were gonna get one test case wrong because I swear I had this code and it gave me one wrong. But
Oh.
I mean, like, it doesn't matter. Like, this code is right. The only thing I would say is
Yeah.
like I think there was one corner case you have to worry about where they can give you an array of numbers where the first two numbers or the first like bunch of numbers are
Yeah.
like all equal to each other. And so in that case, like that means that you cannot establish a pattern. Like how do we establish our increasing pattern, right? Whether we're checking to go up or down. We check based on the first two numbers, right?
Yeah.
But if they give you two numbers, the first two numbers like being equal to each other, or even the first three or four numbers, like you don't know, like they could give you a bunch of numbers in the beginning that are
Yeah.
just equal to each other, right? And
Hmm.
then you can't establish a pattern. So let's say they go like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, right? But if
Yeah.
you like here in our code, by default, we set our increasing equal to true on line 6, and then we just check, okay, if the second one is less than the first one, which it's not because it's 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, then we
Hmm.
set equal to false. So technically, we would be checking for an increasing pattern because we set increasing to true when we made it. But if the array they give us is like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, then technically it's a decreasing array. So that's the one corner case I was thinking of. And
Yeah.
and so what I was gonna say after I assume we're gonna get like 13 out of 14 cases right,
Hmm.
is that like I was gonna say instead of checking the second and first element,
Yeah.
to set the increasing, you would have to use a for loop and run through your array one time before you do this like second for loop. And you'd have to check as soon as like you have two numbers that do not equal each other, that's your trend. Because it's not necessarily the first two numbers, it could be like
Oh,
the last two numbers or any two numbers.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so that's what I was gonna say, but I mean it worked, so no need, I guess. But
Okay.
keep those things in mind, right? Those are things
Yeah.
that if this was like a competition problem, they
Yeah.
would that would be a corner case they would throw at you.
Yeah.
So just like be aware that like, be aware that that could happen. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So is that done with homework?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So we have time for maybe one question in class.
Mhm.
So what I'll say is, can you guys go to arrays
Yeah.
and go to k most? Oh, this was is monotonic, right? Did you guys do k most frequent?
No.
Oh no, let's do that one. Okay. So
Okay.
let me see. Write a method. Why don't you guys like try reading this and tell me what you think the problem is
Okay.
asking. Okay.
I'm gonna play them in on the other side.
Okay. So what do we think?
Um, okay, so like we basically know that you have to like take the array of the integers
Hmm.
and um and then a number k,
Hmm.
which is like the one that wait and k is the value that like appears like the most within like the array.
Hmm.
And wait, okay, so like what we would first need to do is to like count how many times each number shows up and
Hmm.
then to like find the numbers that like show up the most and then like to return those numbers at the end.
Right.
So, okay, yeah.
So
So don't we have to make something that like that'll check the frequency of the numbers in the array?
Right. You're gonna have to do that.
Okay. Um, but you still public, right?
Not a class, just a method.
The static for it. Um,
So that's the main method. You want your method to be called k most frequent, and you want it to return an array of integers. So it would not be the main method header.
oh,
Mhm.
wait, so then what? Wait, can we? It's just.
So instead
Oh,
of
wait,
main,
public stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Like this.
Yep, that's the return type. And then what's the name?
And then K most frequent.
Mm-hmm. And
And
then
then
what parameters do you take?
int in bracket A, comma, int K, I think. Wait, well, no, wait, in bracket that A. The first one is A. Oh, wait, yeah. It's A, comma, K. Okay. Mirror bracket.
Okay, great. So we've made our method header. Now what should we do? So we understand what the question is asking, right? So it's like they're gonna give you an array of numbers and a number k, and they basically want you to look at the array of numbers they give you, see like how many times each number in the array shows up, and then return like the k most frequent numbers. So if they give you an array that has like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 10 shows up one time, 20 shows up two times, like 30 shows up three times, 40 shows up four times, 50 shows up five times, and they say k equals 3, they want you to return the three most frequent numbers, which would be 50, 40, 30. Does that make sense? Or no?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
Um,
so you need to count the frequencies of each number inside the array they give you, right? So how should we do this, guys? Well, do we understand the question? If we do,
yeah.
then okay,
Hmm.
okay. So thoughts, ideas.
Um,
Just spitball. I want one idea from each of you guys. It's okay if it's wrong. Like you got to be wrong before you can be right, you know?
well, I assume that you need to make two integers first, like one that basically holds the numbers inside the array, and um, another one to basically like for the frequency, basically, so the number of times it repeats. And then I thought like you would have to make a for loop,
I really
basically,
like that. Yeah, yeah. What's the for loop for?
to see like to count like how much like a number comes up.
Oh, so then you would like that would be how you check for the frequency of the number.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. So I'm gonna ask you a question, and I want you to defend it with your idea. So if you have an integer to keep track of like whichever number you're checking for, and an integer to keep track of how many times it shows up, then how are you going to do that for every single different number in the array? Like if you have five different numbers in the array, that means you need to keep track of five frequencies for each of those five, or five frequencies because you have five numbers, right? Five different numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have one variable to keep track of a number and one variable to keep track of the frequency, how are you going to do that for like all five? Does that make sense?
Um,
Does it make sense?
yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, because I'm not sure though. Like, are you supposed to use a different like method besides int? Like,
Yes, but you're like really on the right track there. Like your idea is it's like almost correct. Like it is correct. It's on the right track. It is like yeah, keep thinking. Like build on that. Change it a
um,
little bit. But I like your idea. Okay, and then was that Kate or Karen?
that was Kate.
Okay, Karen, then what about you?
I don't know. I'm still thinking because I don't really. Mm,
Okay, thoughts.
well, for me, like this is Kate again, but that's like all I can think of. I don't know what else. Like,
Okay, is this
I,
Kate?
yeah, I'm not too sure.
Okay, Karen.
Um, like possibly making a list that like holds the specific numbers that show up and then like the frequency of them, and then making like a loop so that it could like go through the array to see like the frequency of the number, and then I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know.
Yeah, so you guys like are both on the right track. I'm gonna
Yeah.
combine your ideas, right? So, Kate, you're really close. You're like thinking the right way, and Karen, like your the list thing is important, right? That was what Kate was missing basically. So like you basically like want there so there's a lot of different ways you can solve this, but this one is like so a problem like these types of problems start showing you how it's important to pick the right data structure. So like arrays, array lists, and we've covered maps. I know we have like at some point, and we've covered I don't know if we've covered sets or not, but there's all these different data types, data structures you can use, and they'll all make your life like easier or harder or whatever. But you need to use a data structure for this. So Kate, what you said about having two variables to keep track of the number and the number of times that number shows up, that's absolutely correct. But you can't just do it. You can't just have one variable to keep track of the number and one variable to keep track of its frequency, right? Because you can have 10 or 20 or 30 different numbers in the array that they give you, right? So
Okay.
what you have to do is or this is the way I recommend solving this. Make an array list of integers, um, that's gonna hold all the unique numbers inside the array. And then make an array list of frequencies, that's going to keep track of all the frequencies of the numbers they give you, right? And so array lists can only hold like one, it's like one dimensional, right? It just holds like a list of, it's kind of like an array, except you can like add stuff to the end, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, you need to keep track of two things for every number: the number and how many times it shows up. So one of the array lists is going to keep track of all the unique numbers. So every time you stumble, like you're going to basically make two array lists. You're going to use a for loop to run through the array A that they give you. Every time you stumble across a number, like the next number in the array, you check, do I have it already in my array list that I'm using to keep track of unique numbers? If I don't have it, then I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to, in my frequency array list, I'm gonna add a new, like, I'm gonna add a one at the end there. Because the indexes, if I just draw it real quick, like, you're
Hmm.
gonna have one array list keeping track of the numbers,
Hmm.
and one array list keeping track of the frequencies, and they're gonna line up like based on index. So if I have like an array that they give me of like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, then let's say I have like 10. So at this is index 0, by the way, and then index 1, and then index 2, index 3, index 4, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is at index 0, okay, I'm using a for loop to run through my array A that they give me. The first number I see, oh, it's a 10. Okay, then I'm gonna add a 10 to my unique numbers array list, and then stick add a 1 at that position, so index 0, in my frequencies array list, right? That means that's keeping track. That's telling me I have 1, like 10 I've seen. Okay, let's say the next number I see is a 20. So okay, I'll just add a 20 now to my unique numbers, and then I'll just put a 1 there, right? And so you want to keep doing that. So let's say I see a 30. So boom, 30, then I put a 1 here. And then let's say I see a 20. So it's like, oh, well, I've already seen a 20. So instead of adding another 20 at the end, I'm gonna like check loop through this array until I get to the position where I have my 20, which is index 1, and then I'm just gonna cross this guy out at index 1 and just add 1 to it. So 1 turns into 2, right? And then I'm just gonna go through, my for loop is gonna run through the entire array A that they give me and then just populate both of these arrays. And then once you do that, it should be like, then all you have to do is like run through this frequency array, get your k highest numbers, and then like save those indexes, and then return those corresponding numbers. Easy
Okay.
peasy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
Okay, so conceptually, this is how you want to do it. In practice, the code will be a little tedious. It's going to be a lot of for loops, a lot of array lists. You're going to have to make an array, I think, of like after you run through the array A they give you, when you're checking for the k most frequent numbers inside your frequencies array, you're gonna have to make an array, I think, to keep track of those indexes. Um, so just know that the code might get a little tedious, but as long as you have a clear mental picture of what you want to do, you
Yeah.
should be able to solve the problem, right? So
Okay.
just keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
So
Got it.
any questions?
No, not for me.
Okay. So, oh yeah. What about the other
No,
one?
not for me either.
Okay. Great. So, this question you're gonna want to use array lists. Hopefully you have some notes on that. Just refresh yourselves. You should be able to. I don't know. I know we didn't cover it in class, but hopefully, if you don't have notes on it or your like notes don't make sense, you should be able to look it up and like you should be able to like at least try to figure out like the methods and like how to use it and stuff. So remember,
Okay.
array lists have like dot get, dot set, dot add, dot remove, dot size, not length, dot size. So just refresh yourself on those. Hopefully, good luck with the problem. You can solve it. But we'll go over next class. So
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks guys. Enjoy your week. Homework will be posted, video will be posted. So yeah, let me know if something comes up for next Monday, as usual.
Okay, yes. Bye bye.